something I've never done before because when we like did the roles and stuff, that part came more natural to me because I was like, oh, I've been doing this my whole life. But when we started hitting the ropes and then taking bumps, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so painful. The ropes are not as bouncy as they make them seem.
I feel like that's the one thing everyone learns, that the ropes actually are uncomfortable.
They
Like,
are very uncomfortable.
yeah, it's
And everyone's
something
like,
that your
oh,
yeah, it's something your body has to get used to.
Hey, guys, we're here. We're going to go over the NXT women's roster. We're going to discuss why it's so overloaded in 2025 and how can WWE NXT book all of these women on this roster and much more. Let's check out more at the Pink Square Circle about it. Hey guys, we're here at the Pink Square Circle. We'll talk about is the women's NXT roster overloaded in 2025. You guys get the license. We come into the Pink Square Circle. We will discuss more about the roster here because I believe is an issue here on NXT that we have just way too many of women. Now, I understand that the roster today of women's wrestling has evolved over the years. There's a lot of talent on the NXT women's roster with backgrounds. You have some women on the roster that came from basketball, gymnastics, soccer, volleyball, cheerleading, whatever the case may be. And then these women that did start out their careers as athletes, they end up becoming NXT Women's Champions. They end up becoming mega stars, big stars for the NXT brand, and definitely going to the main roster. But we're going to dive in more to it. We're going to discuss more about it. And an interview with Kalani Jordan as well, talking about the women's roster. Why women's roster is so overloaded, and we're talking about NXT. Here's the problem. I know the women's roster has been the best women's roster for the past couple years. Thing about it is, it went from being good to great to now it's overloaded. It's too many people on the roster for that matter. That's what it's come down to. And like I said, we got a lot of women on the roster here, but thing about it is, it's just way too many women on the roster. It's just way overloaded. And honestly, the roster was already solid before Stephanie and Zaria and Jordan came on the scene. So we have to keep that in mind. The roster was already good. There's a lot of talent on there. Now, I know that Roxanne Perez has moved on. She's going to go to the main roster. Cora Jade, she's back. She was injured at the time for a while, but she came back. Also, we have not just those two. We have the Kalani Jordans. We have the Lola Vice. We have Jada Parker, Lash Legend, Jakar Jackson for tag team. Gigi Dolan, who was out for a while, herself, and Tatum Paxley. So Ruka, who's a single star, a single talent, not a tag team with Zaria. We have lots of women there. I mean, this picture alone, we have lots of women there. We still got Carmen Petrovic. We have lots of other women. And I believe with all that, it makes it just overloaded. And here's the key factors why it was overloaded. Now, you guys hear me out on this one. I know I'm not trying to dog the women's roster saying it's horrible, great talent. I'm saying it's too much talent and there's not enough to place it. Think about it. We see this all the time. Because there's so many women on a roster, what's making this look so bad? We have to keep in mind, and this is why I said this before. One woman with two championships do not help the roster. And we're ready and we're headed to stand and deliver. We have to keep that in mind too. And I think that's a big problem because I like Stephanie Walker. I like everything. She's great. I'm not saying she's terrible talent, but her holding both belts do not help that roster. We know that out of all these women on the roster, one of them can hold that one of those belts. It only be fitting. So I really hope they do that. I really hope that's the case here because it just it does not help. It don't help at all for her to hold one belt. It don't help at all. Whether people like it or not, it does not help the roster. I don't think it makes any sense. I believe Stephanie has both belts. Now we know Giulia. I know Giulia. She was the champion. She had to take time off. They say for injury or visa. I think it's the visa because she didn't look injured to me. I spoke about this before. I believe that when it comes down to it, that I understand Stephanie was the next one in line, more likely to get the belt off Giulia when the time came. But now she already had a championship when Giulia was the NXT Women's Champion. That's the thing about that, and that's what makes it a big issue. But I will say that Stephanie does bring a great audience in. I spoke about this before as well, but she cannot hold on to both belts. It does not help, you know. Let me remind you guys, we was already when the roster was good where it was, we was already expect to get Giulia. You know, Giulia we already knew was coming because she debuted. We first saw her stand deliver last year, so we already knew that was coming. We knew at some point that was going to happen. So that don't surprise me at all. It's no shocker of anything of any kind. We knew at some point that's what it's going to come down to. So that's fine. We knew that would be the case here. We knew it would come down to it. But that's a problem. The problem is that first Giulia, then it was Stephanie Vaquer, and this is right after that. So we prepared. We was a little more prepared for Stephanie too. But I believe the things that really pushed it over the top besides Stephanie, um, that outshine the roster. We had Zaria come through, who's now in the tag team. If you know, she was originally in a singles position. She was a single star, not a tag team, but a part of a solo. And then Jordan coming over, that really overloaded the roster. Now, if you ask me, since Jordan Grace did come on to NXT, I would say Jordan Grace outshined Zaria because Zaria and Jordan they both powerhouses. Zaria was supposed to be the powerhouse of NXT, and now it's Jordan because Jordan's the bigger name. Obviously, she wrestled in NXT last year when she was the NXT battleground when she was at NXT battleground when she was the TNA Knockouts champion. So that messed it up too. But when that did happen, the thing about it is you got three big names. Now you have, which is like I said before, you have Giulia. I know she's out right now. Then we have the champion, Stephanie and Jordan. These are the three names they're going to focus on the most when it comes to NXT. They're going to focus on those three women the most. They're going to be highlighted. Now, if you want to go to tag team, yes, we'll get tag teams. We'll get the Chikara and Lash. We'll get the Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley. We'll get also Soruka and Zaria, who's a great tag team as well. When it comes to solo talent, it'll be these three women, but not Zaria, but Jordan, Stephanie, and Giulia. That's what we focus on. It's just what I don't like about it. It took away from the women that was already here putting the work. Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan. It take away from Soru got put in the tag team. It takes away from Kara Petrovic, who's solid. It takes away from lots of women. Lola Vice, another solid talent. Some of these women were competing for the NXT Women's Championship or the North American Championship. Kalani being the first ever Women's North American Champion. So I think it just really hurts it with these three women. And I have nothing personal against um, I know about Giulia, but Stephanie and Jordan, them coming on really ruined it. Giulia, we already knew, like I said before, but I think that's what's hurting the roster because it's we now you don't know what to do with all these women over here. Now we don't know what to do next with them, and that's what's going on. We see that time and time again, and it's a dynamic because they got women sitting around with nothing to do. That's the problem with that. So that's the thing I'm seeing right now. That makes it sucks. I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. But what can you do? What can you do at the end of the day? You know. Now, the thing about it is, if you notice, one result, it can help the women. It helps the women, but it's a result of an overloaded roster. Um, we can say this too, and it's been going on almost every week. And I spoke about this before. We see so much of this now; it's becoming common. I know it's a partnership and everything, but it still has to be mentioned. The thing I'm talking about right now that I'm going to mention, we see women on TNA Impact. And the reason we see these women on TNA Impact like we do for the past couple of months now, I'll say, the reason we see that so much now so common because this is a result of overloaded roster. We've been seeing Cora Jade on TNA Impact. We've been seeing Lash Jakara Jackson on Impact. They're doing this because it's too many women on NXT and they want to at least showcase the talent of the women on NXT. They're putting them on the TNA show Impact, which come on Thursdays. But at the same time, they really should be on NXT, showcasing their talent, but they really can't do that because of the overloaded roster. It's either they go to TNA or they sit in catering, or maybe even possibly get released. And we don't want that either. But I'm saying this is going on because it's just a overloaded roster. And I don't know what NXT WWE, of course, is going to do with all these women because I believe my biggest fear, but it's also a reality. You got to face it. Some of these women are going to have to be released and go to TNA. It'd be best for their career. You cannot keep all these women under one roof. That makes sense. You can't keep all these women under NXT. Somebody's going to have to go because there's too many people in there. We got one woman walking around with two titles. Then we have her potential next challenger, Jordan. And then we have one that's going to come back, Giulia. What are you going to do with the rest of the women on the roster? Giulia's only one person. You still got a lot of women on the roster. Now, if you had two or three women out of a name, hypothetically, let's say Jordan Grace was out too. Let's say Jordan was out too and Giulia, then you have a chance, but it's just too many women on the roster. They have more women on any roster, any other brand or pro wrestling promotion. So hopefully NXT figures that out. Other than that, that's all I have for why the women's roster is overloaded. Because definitely it's too full. Okay. Yeah, like I said, the NXT women's roster is way too much. But like I said, Kalani Jordan did an interview with Casual Conversation with Classic, a great podcast. She gonna talk about more of her upcoming NXT and who else came up with her on the roster.
And then, worst case, you just go back to your life how it was before.
Selling physical products on Amazon is so 2024. Here's another way people are quiet.
So then I went to Nashville in 2022 SummerSlam, and that's where I did the tryout. And Triple H was there. I know Big E was there. Bianca even stopped by, and Becky. So it was just so cool. And the tryout was something I've never done before because when we like did the roles and stuff, that part came more natural to me because I was like, oh, I've been doing this my whole life. But when we started hitting the ropes and then taking bumps, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so painful. The ropes are not as bouncy as they make them seem.
I feel like that's the one thing everyone learns, that the ropes actually are uncomfortable.
They
Like,
are very uncomfortable.
yeah,
And
it's
then when
something
they
that your
come,
yeah, it's something your body has to get used to.
yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal. Who else was in your tryout with you?
Oh yes. So my tryout, we had a lot of people actually. So it was the girls, me, it was Brinley, Izzy, Adriana, Jasmine, Kaya, someone named Olivia, and then trying to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Hopefully I didn't miss any girls.
That's okay.
And then Carmen was she was technically the tryout before, but because of like being from Canada and stuff, she ended up just coming in the same time as us around like a month before. So we just call her ours too.
You guys would claim her too. That's just
Yes. And then of course the guys like Drake, Tyreek, Tyson, Skylar, and Hayden.
So how's it dealing with the trainers so far at the PC and having that whole experience? Because it's a world-class facility compared to like what coming up in the business was back in the day, and I'm sure you guys hear about it all the time. But like, how's the PC and how are the trainers there?
Oh, they're phenomenal. They've taught me so much, and I obviously I wouldn't be where I am today without them. But they have been just so patient, but so helpful, and then also they've have given me so many ideas not only to develop me as a character and as a wrestler, but just like they've helped me get ideas to cater to like my style. And they've given me like people back in the day to watch, and they're like, oh, watch this. So I just feel like, you have a bunch of different coaches there who've all been what you are going through and made it to the best of the best. So it's really cool.
How has it been working with Sarah Amato? Because she's obviously there for like the girls specifically, and like I know there's a lot of dude trainers there that are great. Norman Smiley, Matt Bloom, the list goes on. But to have Sarah Amato, like she gets what it's like to be a woman in wrestling. What's the biggest thing you've learned from her?
Oh, Coach Amato, she's great. I'm in her class now. She is an absolute beast. We watch some of her matches and she's incredible. But being in her class of course, it's awesome, but I think she also gives us insight being a female wrestler that some of the guys never experience or they just don't understand from a female's perspective. So she's also very creative, and she helps each one of us who are in her class do something that's unique to you. And I think that's like incredible in itself. But like I said, she just helps us with like a female perspective.
All right, that was a great interview with Kalani Jordan with Classic Conversation, guys. You guys let me know what you think of that. And that's all I have for Is the Women's NXT Roster Overloaded. Check out the content here at Pink Square Circle, guys. Until then, guys, I will see you guys later.